Unfortunately, the shit that we have to deal with, to further borrow from the title, has to do with Breonna Taylor. Kentucky Attorney General Daniel Cameron, he came forth with the decision from the grand jury. The grand jury's decision was not to indict any of the officers specifically for what happened to Breonna Taylor, but to instead indict one officer for 3 counts of wanton endangerment. And that had nothing to do with what happened to Breonna Taylor. It had everything to do with the fact that he shot recklessly into this apartment complex, specifically shots that landed at her neighbors, inside her neighbor's home.
And they were white.
And they were white. Very disappointing on a lot of fronts, but I feel like this conversation is caught in a spin cycle that we can't get out of. We can talk 1,000 years about valuing Black life, about how a Black woman's worth is worth less than pretty much everybody in this country. And this brings us all into focus. But it's nevertheless, just because I'm not surprised, that doesn't mean I'm not disappointed. Like, how many times are we gonna be let down by the system that is supposed to protect us?
I said this and I'll say it again, and you know, the bottom line is that he was indicted for the bullets that didn't kill her.
Basically, all he needed was better aim, and he wouldn't be facing any charges at all.
I think as Black women, every time we ask to be loved, respected, cared for, appreciated, we're told, but what about this? But what about that? From Black men, from white women, from everybody. It's exhausting to continue to raise their children, to come to work and provide, to raise our children in addition to their children, to continue to always find a way to rise above the nonsense. It's exhausting because that's what we're always told to do, we're taught to do, and we're socialized to do. Breonna Taylor was 26 years old. And if I hear one more time about her dating a drug dealing guy, save it. We've all dated somebody that we're not supposed to date. And I have to be honest with you, she didn't have a dad. No one has any empathy for that. When you are a young Black woman, and I'm speaking from my truth, and you don't grow up with a father, you find love in places you're not supposed to find love. And all she was trying to do was figure it out. There were ample examples of her trying to leave him alone and move on to do something different. And the only reason why I believe those officers came to her house was because they knew the real drug dealing boyfriend was in custody. They were looking for drugs and money, and none of it was there. But she lost her life. She lost her life because she dated the wrong guy. I gotta ask everybody, who hasn't dated the wrong person? Does that mean I deserve to die?
The part I keep coming back to, not just with her, but with all the situations like this, is that for Black people in this country, there's no margin for error.
None.
That they expect us to be perfect and to make perfect choices all the time. And even when we do, when we lose our lives at the hands of the police, it's always a debate. I'm tired of debating our humanity. It is not conditional, okay? And as you mentioned, you have a young lady who appeared to be on the right track. She was an emergency medical technician. She had a lot of things going for herself, including the new young man that she was dating, Kenneth Walker, who was the one who fired a bullet at the police because, according to him, to his legal team, to Breonna's legal team, they never heard the police identify themselves.
And you know why? If you go back and listen to the 911 tape, this is how I know he's telling the truth. It was dead silent. This guy is calling 911. She's dead. Somebody shot her. There were so many things that were wrong with this case.
Essentially, what the system said was that the walls, the apartment building itself, all of that had more value than her life. They were about to ruin Kenneth Walker's life. Ruin his life. Because if this case did not receive the media attention
they would have tried to take him out for it.
He would still be in jail.
Let's talk about the bigger picture. And I want to say this. I posted several times on Instagram about what I felt was going on. And there was so much pushback from men who were playing devil's advocate, saying, but she was dating a drug dealer. I got to be honest with you. The devil doesn't need advocates. Justice does. And that was not justice. That was not justice in that moment, and there was no justice served for Breonna Taylor in her young life at 26 years old. And I get so sick and tired of people debating us, especially Black women. Let me tell you something. Look around at all we do. Like, just consider all we do. And we make it look effortless and easy, and it's not. It's exhausting. So if I seem angry and if I seem exhausted and I don't feel like playing the game, give me some grace and give me some mercy. We're exhausted.
And more importantly, allow you to be vulnerable, because we don't also get much room and much space to do that either. Look, Vice has done some excellent reporting on this case. I hope more information continues to come to light. Unfortunately, it will not change the fact that Breonna Taylor is dead, and it won't change this system that continues to show us repeatedly, time and again, how much that we don't matter. For us to once again get this completely awful taste of injustice, it just gets harder and harder to sit with every single time.
I gotta say, I'm so happy I'm doing this show with you, because we are unapologetic and about how we feel. I gotta applaud Vice for letting us do what we do. And I have to applaud them, like you said, for their work in terms of investigating this case. Coming up next, because this is what we need right now. We need empathy. If the world had more empathy, we would be able to see each other beyond our skin. Our next guest, Busy Phillips, you guys are going to love her. She talks about empathy. She also taught me about why white women and black women don't always get along, and that's important. So you guys don't want to miss that interview. That's coming up next. And we also have
Chloe and Halle, the songstresses. They're fantastic, they're talented, they're wonderful. They're coming up next on today's show.